so much for joining me on Being Indispensable. My name's Liz Van Vliet. We're all dispensable. I know that better than anyone. I'm a breast cancer survivor. But that doesn't mean that we can't invest in ourselves to improve the skills and capabilities that are going to help us stand out and be perceived as indispensable. Being indispensable is also about the being side of the equation. Because if we're not looking after ourselves and our own well-being, then we have no hope of showing up as indispensable in the workplace. Well, hello, lovely listeners. Welcome to episode 142 of the Being Indispensable podcast. And this week, I am bringing you my third and final episode in my little mini series on the drama triangle. So, last week and the week before, if you haven't gone back, go and have a listen to episode 140 and 141, because those two episodes are where I start outlining what the different roles are in the drama triangle. And you can listen to these in whatever order you like. If you want to keep listening to 142 and go back, that is more than fine. I want to start this episode by saying hello to any new listeners that I have listening to the podcast, and in particular, any of the wonderful, extraordinary executive assistants that were at the event last week, which was run by Marcus Evans, and it was called The Extraordinary Executive Assistant, and I had the absolute delight of chairing and speaking and presenting a workshop and facilitating a panel. And it was 2 days interacting with my favourite people in the entire world, executive assistants. So hello to any of the lovely people that have come to the podcast by way of last week's event. It's lovely to have you here. And I hope you're enjoying this episode and any others that you might have listened to. Anyway, on with this episode. So this week I wanted to just finish off this little series of 3 episodes on the drama triangle by focusing on your interactions with the perpetrator in the drama triangle. Now, why is that something I wanted to do? Because, as I've said in the other episodes, the reason the drama triangle is something I wanted to introduce you to is because it is a dynamic that I see playing up. Well, it is a dynamic that operates in any dysfunctional relationships, but it particularly is something that I see in people that I coach. And I'm thinking of 2 people in particular that I have coached through their experience dealing with a perpetrator. And in both of those cases, this, using the word perpetrator sounds very sounds like we're on CSI or Law and Order. But basically, if I think about when we're talking about the drama triangle and we use that person who sits in that corner and is called the perpetrator, we can also, and this is what I see, and I'm thinking of these 2 people in particular that I've coached through really difficult relationships that they've been navigating with people that fit into this role. They can also be described as tormentors and abusers. They are very controlling people. And you're dealing with the perpetrator when this is something that you think of. It's somebody that thinks about you or about the situation that they want you to manage for them, it's all your fault or it's all their fault. They want to blame someone. They want to feel that you're doing it wrong, that they know better. And as I said, they want to blame someone. They're very controlling. And the truth is that in terms of the drama triangle dynamic, they, in their own mind, will actually think of themselves as a victim or as a rescuer. And sometimes, as I've talked about, in terms of the way we tend to start in one role, sort of our go-to position in the drama triangle. So for these people, their go-to position in terms of engaging with other people is as a perpetrator, is as a tormentor. But in their own mind, they're going through the drama triangle thinking of themselves as a victim. And then in terms of the way they're interacting with you, they can actually also think of themselves as a rescuer. They're helping you by telling you what you're doing wrong or how you could handle a situation better or how you could do your job better. So that's what's something that's really important to know about the perpetrator is to you, they are a tormentor. They are being passive aggressive or outright aggressive. They are being potentially, and in the cases that I'm thinking of with people that I've coached, they're actual bullies in terms of their behaviour. But in their own minds, they don't see it that way. And that's really important to recognise. So this is going to be a really short episode because it's just basically going to be just highlighting the fact that, you know, it's about really reinforcing things that I've talked about in the other two episodes. So the first step to handling situations where you feel that you're in the drama triangle dealing with a perpetrator and you will be on the receiving end of that as either a rescuer or a victim of that person is it starts with noticing it. It starts with that self-awareness. And not just about noticing that they are playing the role or this person is playing the role of the perpetrator, but asking yourself, what role am I deferring to? What role am I playing? So the second step, after you notice it and ask yourself that question of if they're the perpetrator, where am I in the drama triangle, is to avoid reacting. So avoid showing up as the victim or the rescuer. And the way that I want you to do that, which I've already talked about in the previous episodes, is this ABC process. So you want to ask questions. You want to get clarity around what is it that they're communicating to you. You want to set boundaries. You want to say, no, it doesn't work for me for you to speak to me that way. It doesn't work for me for you to bring me your problems instead of handling your problems. So I'm just paraphrasing it because clearly that's not the way you'd articulate it. But, well, having said that, you know I love that phrase, it doesn't work for me or it would work better for me. But the idea of setting boundaries is the key takeaway here. So in the ask metaphor, or the ABC metaphor, it's asking questions, it's setting boundaries, and it's communicating assertively. So it's using the frameworks that I've given you previously in terms of the I notice, I imagine, I feel, Petria King framework, or the SBI framework, which is situation, behaviour, impact. That's what that acronym stands for. And if you're unfamiliar with those, then go back and listen to episode 113 of the podcast, where I talk through those two frameworks for communicating assertively. So, what other resources am I going to give you today? Well, one thing that I think would be really insightful is to be going and having a look at the World Assistance Summit report from a couple of years ago on bullying, where they found that almost 60% of assistants that responded to their survey had been bullied in some form or another. So dealing with a perpetrator, a tormentor, an abuser in the drama triangle can be a form of dealing with bullying. So having a look at that report would be something for you to do, to have a look at the experiences of other assistants so that you can see whether any of your experience, any of their experiences resonate with you and some of the tips in that report. But, you know, obviously I want you to go back and listen to 113, the episode about managing difficult conversations. I want you to listen to the other 2 episodes on this topic of the drama triangle. And I would love it if you would let me know about how you have found these 3 episodes, whether there's been any light bulb moments for you in terms of thinking about how these 3 roles in the drama triangle, play out for you as an assistant. And as I said, the reason I wanted to do this episode in particular of dealing with, one of these sort of, very difficult personalities who show up as a perpetrator is because I do see it in my work. And it is something that in order for you to navigate starts with setting boundaries and communicating assertively. And that's something, of course, that I'm very passionate about. So I hope that this has been a good little reminder for you to be self-aware and notice and observe, and definitely be curious about where the behaviour from that person that is showing up in the drama triangle as a perpetrator is actually coming from. Because, noticing and observing and being curious about, well, this is actually about their issues. This is about their feelings and their identity, about the way they see the world, and not blaming or feeling, being down on yourself that you are being treated this way, because, you are a victim potentially. And what I want you to do is go back to the last week's episode where I shared with you that conscious leadership video. I might put the link in the show notes again this week, for you to get yourself above the line in terms of your thinking and behaviour and escape the drama triangle. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see the show notes, head over to my website. It would be great if you haven't already done so. If you enjoyed the show, if you could kindly go to iTunes and leave a review. It helps other people find the show. Thanks for listening and have a great week.